Hey, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. It's Friday, so that's always a good thing. I scheduled this live stream today to talk to you about primary series. It's the beginning of the year, so it seems like a good time to start from the beginning. And I wanted to go into a little bit about what is it about primary that pulls us into yoga in the first place. So feel free to drop any comments you have here, or if you have any questions as we go through this, put them in the comments, and I'll try to answer anything that you guys have. So first off, I want us to kind of step back and take a look at the word primary. We think about the Ashtanga, we think about Ashtanga as this linear progression. You've got primary series and then second series and then third series. And it's like, you have one posture, and then you do that posture, and then you get the next posture, and then you get that posture well, and then you're taught the next posture. So we really think about Ashtanga yoga as this line, and it really isn't a linear progression. And primary series, I think it's much more than first series. We call it first series all the time, but it's more than first series. It's much more than first series. It's the foundation. It's the primary. It's the primer. Um, it's the basis. Primary series is the basis that everything else in the Ashtanga Yoga system is made of. So if and when you go through those postures, because I've worked with a lot of students over the years, and there's this real initial attraction, and then often people get like super anxious and hungry for what comes after primary. But I think that it's more important to look at it is that we're always coming back to primary. Like primary is this basis that we can keep growing from and evolving from and changing from. And personally, I've probably learned primary series like at least 3 times. I mean, there was the first time when I learned primary series when I was dropping into light classes and learning primary series. I didn't really get primary series then. Maybe I knew the vinyasas and I could do the postures, but I didn't understand primary series. And then I relearned primary series basically entirely when I learned third series. Because third series is so similar to primary series, but like you don't know that when you're learning primary series the first time. You have no idea what's coming on ahead in other series. So I relearned third series. I'm sorry, I relearned primary series when I was learning third series. And then I relearned primary series again when I was dealing with a bunch of different injuries, because I had to think about it more intelligently, and I had to think about it more subtly. And honestly, like if we're really counting times I learned primary series, I think another time I learned primary series is when I was learning how to teach it, because that again was this time when I had to think about modifications. I had to think about individual bodies in each posture, not just my own body. So this is all to say, like, you're not ever really going to finish learning primary series because everything keeps changing, and that's going to give you more information and different perspectives to work with, and that's good. I mean, you want to see it from more than one line of vision. So, in terms of primary series and opportunities to learn primary series, um, the like when we're actually thinking about the postures, like we see a lot of parallels with the standing postures, right? Like you see the sun salutations and how that later translates to postures like bakasana or handstand or even headstand, plus all the jump backs and jump throughs. And then you look at postures like Janu Shirshasana, and that becomes something really similar to Ekapada Shirshasana later on. And you see postures in primary series like, what's another good one? Well, Garbha Pindasana, and how similar Garbha Pindasana is not only to Urdhva Kukutasana in third series, but it's like basically the same thing that you do in Karandavasana, but you're just changing the orientation. And that's what keeps happening in Ashtangas. Orientations change. You're like where the center of gravity is might change, the direction gravity is pushing you on you changes, but we keep seeing these same patterns in asanas and in movements of the body. And that's why it's so important to really get grounded and understand what you're doing in primary series. Um, And so another thing about primary series is the grounding aspect of it. And I think that that's another reason why it's first, why it's the primer, why it's the basis. Because we all come into this practice from all different places in life and all different experiences. And some people have been doing vinyasa flow for a decade, and some people have been moving their entire lives, and then other people have been sitting at a desk for the last decade or have had all these experiences that were less physical. Um, and so you get to primary series, and all of a sudden you're really given these gross cues. Grab your big toe, look up. I mean, that might be the only instruction you get for a pose, depending on whose class you're going to. I mean, maybe you guys can pipe in about that because I bet some of you have had similar type of experiences, right? When you're just given like, um, reach your feet up, look forward. Like the cues are minimal, and so if you've gone to a lot of other classes or other styles of yoga in the past, you might have way more in-depth cues like spiral this and internally rotate that and lift your chest and feel this. And often what you get in other styles of yoga is a suggestion as to how to feel. I mean, I'm actually guilty of doing that as well, like feel your outer hip or feel your heart lift. Or I think you do get that somewhat in Ashtanga, but you certainly get it more in other styles of yoga. I mean, so much to the fact that in other styles of yoga, like they're playing music in Shavasana and they're playing music throughout the whole class, which actually really manipulates the way you feel. That doesn't happen in Ashtanga. You listen to your breath and you feel your body. You feel your own body. Like there's very rarely a teacher telling you what to feel. I mean, maybe you ask, and honestly, like when the student asks me what this should feel like raise your hand if you've ever said that. Like, where should I be feeling this? I mean, because as a teacher, I hear that all the time. Okay, come on, guys, raise your hands. Come on, you guys must have asked that before or heard it. Like, where should I be feeling this? I don't know where you should be feeling this. It's your body. Like, you tell me where you're feeling it. And I think that, like, own it. Like, that's part of owning your practice. Like, you figure out where you feel it and you know where you feel it. And so I think that's something to think about in your practices. Um, but this is all to say that Ashtanga yoga, especially when we're starting, right? Me, thank you. Especially when you're starting with primary series, it's the gross. It takes you into the gross. It takes you into your physical body. It takes you into that aponic energy. And, if you have read Yoga Mala or any other of those Ashtanga books, like every other suggestion for Yoga Mala or every other purpose of the pose in Yoga Mala is like, oh, it makes you go to the bathroom or whatever. Like that's literally what people like. We're talking gross, like physical gross stuff. Like it is about your physical body. And not only and I think that's what pulls so many people in all the time because it's about your body and it keeps you coming back to how you feel in any given moment throughout the practice. Like you have to keep paying attention to that. And then, like as soon as you start to kind of understand how you feel and figure it out a little bit, it changes again. It keeps changing. And that keeps you waking up. And that experience of continually waking up, I mean, that's when yoga happens. Like that's the beauty of it. And that's when you start to figure out yourself better. You figure out right away, Ashtanga yoga starts teaching you to figure out your body better. But then you start to kind of peel away those outer layers, those outer sheaths, and you start to kind of figure out more about your own mind. And really like your mind changes with practice. Um, yeah, these are some really good comments. Um, yeah, it takes time to learn the cues. Um, and I wondered about feeling it. And then this is a really good comment here. My biggest problem is I take instructions literal. And yeah, that's a super interesting thing to say. And I think that probably happens a lot. And first of all, like any instruction has to be coming from, it does take a skilled teacher to give good instruction, especially with virtual teaching right now, because often with Ashtanga, traditionally it's very much taught by hands. And I think that we're seeing a shift in that as like all the as we've learned about all these inappropriate adjustments and how I think as teachers, we're really trying to give power back to students on a larger scale. So, traditionally, Ashtanga was taught by the hands often. And, Patabi Joyce didn't really speak English very well. So he taught with his hands. Um, and that means, so then you were kind of manipulated into a pose. Again, that's very gross. Like that's a very learning it in your body is definitely one way to learn it. But I think as we continue to evolve and as we see this Ashtanga evolution, we're certainly getting more instruction. And I think that more power is given to the student to learn the series and to figure it out. And you need a teacher, don't get me wrong. Like having a teacher to help you guide you is super important. Otherwise, you learn faster with a teacher typically, right? Like it takes me like as a teacher, like 1 second to see something in somebody else that might take them months to figure out. And the same is true as me as a student. Like I could struggle with the pose forever and then I go drop in on a Mysore class and the teacher's just like, Jen, do this. Um, and so, there's many different ways to learn and they're all valid, but I mean, I guess the whole point of this is that, primary series is the basis of Ashtanga. It's not just primary as in first, like if it's not like this linear thing, it's the basis, it's the foundation. And then one of the reasons that makes it so is the level of grossness of it. It's that getting us in touch with our body. It's those simple cues, grab your big toe, look up. Like it brings you into that moment that you're experiencing in your body right now. And and then you keep coming back to it. Like you move, you come back to it again. You get on your mat the next day, you come back to it again, and you realize it's a whole different thing the next day. Um, so yeah, and I mean, I think that that's really kind of what a lot of us love about Ashtanga, the repetition that's built into the practice. It gives us this opportunity not only to really learn the postures, but to see that we are actually the ones that are changing. It's you that's changing. It's not the posture. You did that same posture yesterday. It feels completely different. It's because you changed. Um, and that's that whole process of continually waking up. That's why you want to pay attention. And even then, like we all space out sometimes in practice. I mean, I'm as guilty of it as anybody else. It's just like, did I just do this side? Did I skip a pose? I mean, it happens all the time. Um, and that's even when we're being alert. That's even when we're being awake. We still skip poses and we still space out for a minute here or a minute there. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes to lose your train of asanas. So I think that's kind of, basically what I wanted to say about primary series today. Just talk a little bit about it as the basis and to get away from of it as being that idea of first and think of it more as the foundation and the basis. And as you look at it that way, you'll see all these parallels between postures. You'll see the parallels in primary series to the parallels in second series to the parallels in third series. You'll see the parallels in the standing postures to the parallels in the seated postures. You'll see the parallels from upward facing dog to the parallels in Urdhva Dhanurasana and dropping back. Right. How many B's did I do? I lose track of how many B's I did on a regular basis. So now I just do 3. Like if I start doing 5, I always lose count. It's like, is it 4? Is it 6? And I also am totally guilty of often skipping Utkatasana in the B's. It's like, I know this, but it's like my mind goes someplace else. And the next thing I know is I skip my Utkatasanas in Surya B. So, everyone's guilty of it. And the point is that you get to keep working on it. You get to get on your mat and work on it every single day because it's going to feel different depending on what else you have going on in your life and what you have going on in your body. But I do want to invite all of you to my primary series interactive. This is a 6-week-long course and it starts on Saturday the 16th. So it's super fun. If you're looking to kind of give your practice a kickstart and a reboot this new year, I couldn't recommend this more, not only because I'm teaching it, but I think it's really a great program. It's 6 weeks of pre-recorded content with a live workshop every single weekend and some live classes thrown in there. So we'll really kind of nitpick primary series and break it down and build it up. And you get a lot of personalized instruction from me. People send in videos or post in this private Facebook group, and I'll look at every single asana and give you feedback. And I'll also be, of course, looking at you during the workshops that we have with the training as well. So if you're interested in that, please DM me, or you can click on this link in here, and the link's in my bio. The link is in this post. So you can learn more about it there. But I'm also happy to answer any questions that you have. So if you want to talk to me about it, you can just DM me and I'll answer. And my friends, that's all I have for you today. I also did this super time-consuming regular post, if you want to check it out on my feed, about about the Patanjali's 8 steps. And it's so funny. Like everybody always tells me they want more sutras and they want more philosophy, and then I post stuff like this and I never get any likes. So if you're into that, please check it out because they take me forever to write. Um, all right. Well, I will see you soon. I hope. I hope I see you in the primary series interactive also. And have a very, very happy weekend.